Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me, and I'm back. I'm back with a brand new Deku What If. The last Deku What If was canceled for a reason. I just felt like it was kind of just not there for me. I felt like I wasn't doing the best of jobs. I know I brought this up in a previous What If, but I just want to bring that up now. This Deku What If, I have full intention of just finishing because it is kind of heavily requested. So as a lot of you know, I did a What If Deku had a stat leveling quirk. If you're clicked onto this video, this is going to be a far different video than that video was. That was a long time ago, I think almost probably a year ago now. So this is going to be far different, but this will involve a different class that I want any of you to choose. That is going to be slightly later in the video. I'm going to give you guys a ton of options that I found online. So I just wanted to bring that up really quick, but nonetheless, yo, what's good, everybody? And I'm not going to waste that much more of your time. Make sure to leave a like, a sub, and a comment down below. And we're going to be getting right into What If Deku had an RPG leveling quirk. And this is part 1. So let's get right into it. Let's get it. Izuku Midoriya was born into a world that we all know to have superpowers. But these superpowers were obviously known as quirks. These superpowers became a staple in society. Many didn't know what to do if you didn't have a powerful quirk or a strong one. Many wanted to be support heroes, wanted to be heroes in general. They did not want to be police officers, doctors, and surgeons like how people in the past once wanted to be. But now, all it mattered was that you would be a hero. All people wanted to do was become one, and they'd pray every night that their children would get strong quirks, that they would be able to send them down the alleyway of being a hero. But people do not understand the treachery that would be right in front of you, the obstacles that you would have to deal with when being a hero. And Izuku Midoriya was ready for all of that. All of that would come straight for him. And in the original canon, Izuku Midoriya would be born quirkless, and he would stay that way until he was given a quirk by the #1 hero, All Might himself. But what would happen if Izuku Midoriya had an RPG leveling quirk? Izuku Midoriya would immediately head to the doctors with his mother at the age of 5, and when they arrived, the doctor was in complete shock after running a couple tests. Immediately, the doctor tells his mother that he has one of the most blessed quirks that he's ever seen in his life. Inko Midoriya, his mother, is completely shocked. What does that even mean? What do you mean? And the doctor begins to explain. You see, Miss Midoriya, your son here, he has a very special type of quirk. A quirk that may be limitless, may have infinite amounts of potential. It's some sort of RPG leveling quirk, very similar to video games that me and you may have seen in the past. Maybe some that little Izuku has even played. He begins to explain more and more, and Izuku himself realizes what he's talking about, that it is somewhat similar to multiple games he has played in the past, at least like simple ones. He's never played some of the more advanced RPG-like games, but it seems as if Izuku will get his own little HUD menu, but it will also be embedded into his arm. It seems like his arm will eventually develop a small screen that would be hidden within his skin that nobody but him will be able to see. He'll be able to look at the screen and actually recognize which things are there, what stats and everything like that, in which the doctor pinches him and pokes him with a needle to get some blood and then injects him with this small little vial of some sorts, in which the mother, or Inko Midoriya, is confused at what happened, and he explains that that is how they're going to activate his quirk, and just as they do that, his little screen shows up on his arm. Izuku is shocked, or slightly startled, but also excited at the same time. Looking at the stats screen, he sees that all his stats say 0, and he doesn't even have a quest. It seems that he's going to have to actually do some relatively simple things to level up, either eventually gain more and more quests, or do miscellaneous things that would eventually allow him to gain various different amounts of leveling stats. You see, he has 2 different categories. His first category is the main stats. If we're talking about intelligence, if we're talking about strength, speed, stamina, stuff like that is all on that front page, but there's a separate page that he doesn't personally put stat points into. It's actually based off of different things he does. Let's say Izuku actually loves to cook, and he cooks all the time. His cooking skill will slowly but surely increase more and more and more. And it's the same thing for everything in terms of using maybe even bows, swords, anything like that. They all have different effects on Izuku, or different effects in the grand scheme of things. Even stuff like woodcutting, creating, making support items, anything you can possibly think of, he can do. Even being able to convince people of certain things, which is just involved with him being able to socialize better and better throughout his life. And Izuku seems to actually be a little bit confused by this, but his mother kind of explains that if he starts doing more chores around the house, or maybe cooks food from time to time, or learns how to cook and does that, he'll actually gain experience points from that as well, and maybe even be able to level up his other stats on top of his passive stats too, in which Izuku, hearing this, actually gives him a large incentive to do so. And in my opinion, Izuku would become far more independent in a lot quicker time. He wouldn't be as crybaby as he maybe is. Of course, he has that same type of personality, but it wouldn't be too heavy on that side where he's so codependent on his mother or on anybody else. When he would head back to school the next day though, he would tell everybody about his quirk, in which everyone's kind of shocked and confused, as if he was like some video game character. Everybody thinks it's actually kind of cool, but of course Izuku wouldn't be the most popular kid in school because, well, you can't really see leveling up. Frankly, it's like they have to just take his word for it. And it's not like they really know how strong it's gonna be. But with the idea that he would gain leveling and basically just XP in general from just doing daily tasks, it seems that Izuku is far more motivated to make sure he gets good grades, make sure to study really hard, and any help that he can do around the house and any extra things he can do in terms of working out and stuff like that would be of most importance for Izuku. He would continue on with his studying, his training, his anything he could possibly think of, and by the age of 10, he starts seeing some substantial growth. It seems like he starts getting some more experience, he starts putting stats into his leveling, and a kid like him, you'd probably put a decent amount into basically intelligence, maybe some into strength, and stuff like that, and kind of make it slightly well-rounded. Nonetheless, that's not the biggest and most important part of all of this. Izuku would continue on leveling and also learning more and more from his school, also from his mother, and anything that they can possibly do. His mother even realized that his cooking skills were getting to the point where all the food he made was a lot better than hers, and everything cooked a lot faster. It seemed kind of odd. It seemed so inhuman, like it was so extraordinary. But I mean, frankly, when you have people in real life that can kind of breathe fire and basically like punch entirety of buildings to the ground, it's not too hard to realize that your son could be that much more gifted than some of the other kids. Nonetheless, she decides that since he's having such good growth with all this other stuff, she decides to put him into martial arts classes. It seems like this will definitely help him in hero work, but the martial arts is very basic. It's nothing too advanced to the point where he's super confused, but frankly he wouldn't be anyways. He's extremely intelligent and his stats have allowed him to learn a lot quicker, but nonetheless he'd still be a kid trying to learn something very, very complicated. Izuku would slowly but surely learn stuff like karate, taekwondo, jujitsu, but all to a lower level of degree. Everything seems to be plateauing at this point, and it all comes down to one thing, and that is actually his class. But unfortunately, Izuku will not get a choice of that class until a little bit later. It seems like he has to wait until he's basically done with middle school until he can get that class, because he needs a certain amount of experience points in the passive categories to actually get to the point. So he has like almost a maxed out cooking stats, a pretty high martial arts stats, a pretty high studying stat, and everything that's all these miscellaneous stats are growing more and more. But there's still some things he hasn't really done entirely. He has an athleticism stat that isn't really too high, and that's more because well, he just started martial arts, and also that he hasn't been big on athletics to that degree. He's not in like different sports like soccer or stuff like that. So he actually decides that he'll get into that and start working out a lot more than usual. So he actually leans more into that, and his athleticism stat does slowly but surely build up and up and up. And he realizes that there are so many stats that it's hard to keep track of all of them. And he would be reaching that threshold of basically being able to choose a class based on these other stats, but unfortunately it won't be as quick as he wants it to be. And there are some interesting stats as well, some stats that he doesn't necessarily understand. Some involve potion making and stuff like that, but he has no idea how any of that would work. Same thing with medicine. Some are like technological, basically him learning technological advancements, and also making support items. He's not really been into that, but sure, why not? Maybe he can read up on some gadgets he can somehow make, and eventually he'd be able to basically replicate some gadgets that were made by past support heroes. And this would just allow him to level up a little bit more in a bunch of other categories as well, being that the support category, a technological category, obviously intelligence category, a creative category, and various other things like that. Because frankly, there are a ton. And doing this actually allows him to interact with more and more people, because he actually creates this seemingly this gauntlet that will actually help the normal person punch twice as hard. And he's not exactly sure how he made it, but he did basically break down the process of quote unquote making it to the people that he's been showing it to, and eventually an agency would actually catch up onto this and offer him a deal to actually take it. So he gives it to him, obviously, and actually takes a good lump sum of money for it. Izuku would continue to get these interactions, and having more interactions in school with people that want to learn more about his support tech and stuff like that would allow him to level up in that category as well. Of course, let's not cross our minds that Izuku is some genius at basically interacting, and he's not really a genius at that. He's not super intelligent. This process of making this gauntlet took a long time, and the only reason why he was able to actually replicate a version of it from someone else's previously partially made gauntlet, he was actually able to make it because of, well, you know, his ultimate study stat, and being able to have that intelligence background actually allows for him to replicate things a lot easier. But if he made something from complete scratch, it would have been a lot harder. The only problem is the person that actually started making this gauntlet catches wind of what occurred and is slightly confused. It seems as if this person actually lives elsewhere, actually in America, and they're actually wondering how this random person in Japan was able to flawlessly make this support item, and relatively quickly as well. But it's a toned down version of what they wanted to do. Yes, this will help the average human, or let's say it's a person that has a quirk, but their quirk isn't strength enhancement. Yeah, it will help them, but frankly, it was for someone else and for other people as well, in terms of people that had quirks that would backfire upon themselves. And it seems like this person will be headed to Japan to speak with Izuku, because this was taken over the course of the next 3 to 4 years. Izuku now, at the age of 14 to about 15, would be slowly but surely ending his middle school year. Izuku continues on with everything he's been doing, and eventually gets to the point where he has enough statistical prowess that he can eventually choose his class. He eventually will be able to choose his class after he's actually done with his last day of middle school, which is approaching right now. Obviously, Bakugo would see him as a prime person to basically have conflict with and not want to be behind Izuku ever. But Izuku also hasn't really shown a crazy amount of hero potential, quote unquote. Support hero potential, for sure. They have seen him have high levels of intelligence, so that would make sense. So during their little spout with the teacher, how the teacher tells everybody, hey, I was gonna give you guys some applications to fill out to see what you guys wanted to do for jobs, but the teacher decides to throw those papers in the air, telling them all that he knows they want to go the hero route. And of course, everyone talks about how Bakugo and Izuku want to go to the most prestigious school in Japan, UA High School. Bakugo stands on the desk declaring that he will be the only one to get in, but Izuku just sits there and doesn't really say much at all, just shrugging his shoulders. Everybody then says that Izuku must have a good chance, and even if he can't get in as a regular hero, he'll get in as a support. And Bakugo kind of laughs at this, saying that Izuku would be a support hero and that he would be forced to anyways, because guess what? He's just, well, it's seemingly useless without being smart. And Bakugo is smart himself, but does make fun of the idea that Izuku would have to be a support hero instead. But Izuku kind of slightly stands up for himself and says that once he gets his class, that it will all be over. But everyone's kind of confused. Class? What are you talking about? Izuku explains, and the teacher obviously allows this. He's kind of in awe at the little bickering back and forth that they just had, and he explains that he actually has a class system that will be in place sooner rather than later, and he should be getting it in the next couple days. He'll be able to choose from a assortment of classes supposedly, and he'll be able to get a lot more bonuses and maybe even stuff that will allow him to be an actual or real hero, besides just a support hero that he basically is able to replicate other things at a mass, in which all of them are kind of shocked to hear. That's super cool, actually. And Bakugo is kind of annoyed by this and just rolls his eyes and just sits back in his chair. The teacher eventually calms the entire class down and tells them that it's time to head out. Izuku eventually leaving and writing in his notebook more and more about various things he could do for his next classes. What classes could he pick? He wonders. Everything is so shaded out, but it could be anything. It could be some sword class, a knight class, samurai, anything you can think of. There could be such cool ideas just sitting right in front of him. Izuku decides not to think too much about it anymore and just continues on. He continues on and heads under a bridge, but just as he does so, he begins to oddly get a feeling. A feeling of danger begins to overwhelm him as he continues to walk through. He decides to full sprint toward the exits. Being slightly faster than a normal human being, he does get to the exit just as the sludge villain becomes barreling out of a manhole cover, telling Izuku that he needs his body. "I need your body, kid, or else. Oh, I didn't know he was here. What am I supposed to do? I need to get out of here." Immediately, the sludge villain is in a complete frenzy, a panic. Izuku, seeing this, takes advantage of it and is able to basically get out of there to a certain extent. But just as he moves out of the way, it seems like this giant gust of wind blasts through the tunnel. It blasts through the tunnel, smashing into the wall and explodes the sludge villain into small little pieces. Izuku kind of creeps back and looks beyond the little wall and sees one person, a big shadow, standing with his hands on his hips and his hair poking out like some weird looking figure. Immediately he realizes who it is. It's the number one hero, All Might himself. He's shocked. He begins to murmur, say all these random things, wanting All Might's autograph. All Might gives it to him and asks him if he's okay. Izuku says that he's just fine. He just realized that he should probably get out of there instead of trying to have conflict with this villain, in which All Might pats him on the head and says that he did good. But then All Might pauses.
"Wait, I know who you are. You're the person that what's his name? You just told me. Izuku Midoriya. Yes. Izuku Midoriya. You're the one that made that replica of the bracer for Hero's arms, correct?"
"Oh, yeah, I did. It was a replica that wasn't finished, but I finished it based on, well, a normal human being. It wasn't that impressive, but it definitely helped my family out, or my mother." Izuku is modest as always, and All Might says that it was extremely impressive, and he actually knows the person that originally made it. Izuku, hearing this, waves his hands really fast and it says he's sorry for using the design. He didn't know that it was illegal but he's cut off immediately, obviously. And All Might says that nobody is in legal trouble by any means, and he's just a kid. Actually, the other person that made it is a kid as well, and he's shocked to hear this. Wait, really? A kid? Like my age?
"Yes, she's actually 1 year older than you."
Immediately, Izuku is shocked to hear that there's someone that smart. And why does he make it sound as if she's somewhere else? All Might then continues to explain that maybe one day they will meet, because it seems that she will be actually visiting Japan to join the support course at UA. Izuku is completely shocked and would love to meet this female, or this woman that was the reason why he made a decent amount of money. But All Might kind of explains that the gauntlet was actually made for a bigger purpose than even Izuku intended, and that she is still in the process of making something even greater than just that simple gauntlet. And Izuku is shocked and says that he'd love to see the final product at the end of it all, and All Might says that he's sure that he will. All Might jumps off before he can run out of time, because obviously that time constraint is coming down to an end, and Izuku waves goodbye. Izuku wishes he asked a couple more questions, but unfortunately All Might was gone before he could actually realize. He heads back home, telling his mother of the entire incident, in which she is extremely worried, but it seems like Izuku is so calm. He's not actually very jittery, nothing like that at all. He's very calm, calculated, and nothing really stirred him up. It seems as if some of his stats have actually given him a different type of personality, and in fight or flight scenarios, it seems that he actually does default to having a strategic mind instead of a fearful one, which is, for one, extremely beneficial. So yeah, that's a big plus for Izuku and his kit to come. After that entire thing occurred though, Izuku realizes that he has a short amount of time. Well, quote unquote a short amount of time. He has 10 months until the UA entrance exam. The UA entrance exam is a very, very important thing that they're going to have to deal with. So he wants to begin his training the right way. He goes to his martial arts classes, gets some extra training in, and eventually what comes up is finally what he's been waiting for, and that is his class archetype, or more like his character archetype. So they all are basically just completely different in terms of ranging, but there are core versions of it. There's stuff like the fighter archetype, the rogue archetype, the ranger archetype, the barbarian archetype, and the cleric archetype. All of these are very, very different, but they all have different subcategories that will allow him to do various different things. If he wants something part of the fighter archetype, he'll have to choose between various different versions of that. And that is exactly what we'll be getting into right now. The fighter archetypes involve an arcane archer. Arcane archers use their bow proficiency to deal with devastating magical bow damage to anyone in their path. Proficiency in arcane or nature, ability, magic arrow, arcane shot, curving shot, and many, many more. Then we have some outside of an archer, which is called Battle Master. A Battle Master learns all the different ways to, well, be a Battle Master. Combat superiority, maneuvers, and different ways to enhance attacks based on their maneuvers. They know their enemy. This allows the person to learn an enemy or ally outside of combat. Hit points, armor class, and class level are things that Battle Masters can also see based on their own little leveling system. Obviously, regular people don't have these stat leveling things, but he will be able to see weaknesses in different armors and different things like that. Then we have the champion. Champions are all about physical excellence and devastation. This is perfect archetype for those who want to deal with raw damage. They have improved critical hits, they're remarkable athletes, and something called Survivor. You are basically get an impressive addition to hit points during battle if you're basically almost a goner or on hospital's doorstep. Then we have Knight, and basically a Knight can more or less do an implaceable mark when an enemy is marked by you. This also gives them a disadvantage. You have Hold the Line. This allows the Knight to slow enemies by delivering a decisive blow. Defender's Blade. This ability will enable Knights to strike back with vengeance, and there's various other things that a Knight would be able to do, very similar just to a Knight in general. And then we have a Samurai, which there are different things for samurais, different weaponry. And obviously we have the Fighting Spirit, which gives you an advantage on different attacks and attack rolls, and it adds actually 5 extra hit points. Then you have the more, you could call it more technical aspects, which a samurai is known for their swordsmanship. So you have rapid strikes, and in certain situations you can attack a target multiple times before they can even attack you. An elegant contour, which this gives the player a massive boost in charisma and stuff like that. And that's the fighter archetype alone. And then now we can go to the rogue archetype, which has assassin, which assassins are hired killers. Those who are in death, they can basically profit off of the art. And there's a ton of different assassin things to choose from there. But unfortunately, assassin is not a choice. Sorry about that, because we did assassin last time. But you can choose the other things as well, which is inquisitive, which these rogues love to learn secrets, expose plots, and love mysteries. They have basically an eye and ear for deceit. They can basically see different or have better sight. They can tell when someone's lying and spot hidden creatures and objects. Endearing eye, which you have incredibly you're incredibly perceptive, and almost nothing can get past you. Then you have a scout, which scouts are just like natural scouting territory, living in the wilderness, survivalist specialist, superior mobility, ambush master, stuff like that. Then you have a swashbuckler, which swashbucklers are master of the blade and arts of charisma, and duelists and pirates are also swashbucklers. You have you're a master duelist, like I said. You are also given something called fancy footwork, which you can like strike and slip away from enemies with relative ease. And then we have ranger archetypes. Ranger archetypes have about 2 different versions of the archetype, which for starters is a beast master, which on top of already having like light armor and bows, if you're a beast master, the beast master develops close bonds with obviously beasts, which you can have animal companionship and also a companion's bond, which will further the benefits to the beast you bond with, and more things that you would gain along the way. Then you'd have a hunter. Hunter focuses on combat. They try to thin the hordes of the enemies from far away with bows, and you have various other abilities as a hunter. Then you have a barbarian, which is more or less just a berserker class. A berserker class doubles down on the rage, and it turns it to on their foes, basically allowing them to have just brute strength and intimidating presence that would allow them to go berserk and frighten their enemies and even do double the damage in some instances. Also, we have like a frenzy version of it, like I said before, which they go kind of wild and start attacking things on a whim. And then last but not least, we have the cleric archetype. This cleric archetype has 2 different subsections, which first is life. So we have a life cleric archetype, which are basically dealt with life magic to heal the sick, stuff like that. And you can have a disciple of life, most effective healing spells, stuff of that regard. Then you have the death version of it, which is like a reaper archetype, and this allows the player to learn a variety of necromancy spells and inescapable destruction. Your destructive death spells are more potent, and you can actually get through enemy defenses or just attackers or basically villain defenses a lot easier. And those are all of the ideas and archetypes that we have here. If you guys want to see exactly where I'm getting these from, these are not all mine, but whatever you guys choose will be all basically involve my own ideas with it. These are just the base level of what they are. I will leave the link in the description if you want to check all of them out again, since I already explained all of them. But nonetheless, this is where Izuku's story will stop for now. This is where part 1 will end, because I want all of y'all to choose what you guys want to see for his class. I thought this would be a lot more fun than just me picking and choosing whatever, and I'm not even gonna say what I like the most because I don't want it to get skewered. I'll be looking at the comment section when this gets posted. So this video will the next part of this will not be up tomorrow. It'll probably be up the next day, so I give you guys a whole day to pick and choose. But like I said, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like, a sub, and a comment down below. I hope you guys are excited. Remember where we left off. We're going to be finishing up the training, and then we'll be going straight to the UA entrance exam. So I hope you guys are excited for that. Make sure to check the links in the description, including this one that I'm putting in there, which is the gaming. It's from gamingdesigning.org, and it's just based on a bunch of RPG classes. So make sure to check that out. Pick exactly what you want. Maybe I'll see there's more comments of yours compared to others. Do not spam in the comments which one you want, because I will most likely ignore those spam comments and just count the others. And that's about it. I hope y'all enjoyed. I hope all of y'all have an amazing day. Later.